A representative Zaire entered the office of the human delegate, River, who stood politely from behind his desk and motioned her into a chair opposite him. "Thank you for meeting me on such short notice, Delegate River. I'm afraid I have come with ill tidings and to request assistance from the human empire," Zaire began. River smiled softly, his features gentle, but his eyes held calculations, predictions, and expectations. And the empire and the foreign people have always been staunch allies. "What can we do for you?" Zyla produced her tablet, conjuring a series of reports from foreign expeditionary forces. These reports detailed their recent contact with a new interstellar race, the Legion, a race of fungal sentience of seemingly unending number. Though protocols were followed and the foreign had attempted peaceful communication, they had been rebuffed. The Legion had decimated the first contact party and ravaged the rescue fleet that had jumped in to save them, assuming it was a natural disaster or disease. The rescue force realized it was a conscious attack and began evasive maneuvers and returned fire, but their attempts were found meaningless against the Legion vessels. Outnumbered, outgunned, and unprepared, the foreign rescue fleet fled back to foreign space. The retreat carved a galactic trail for the Legion to follow. River read through the reports with a stoic expression, highlighting the negative trend as foreign planet after foreign planet fell to Legion ships and soldiers, ultimately to be consumed by their growth. "Your people are divided and engaged in a losing war with the Legion," he summarized. "I'm certain we can be of assistance. Humanity has encountered these foes before. I will have our commanders generate reports of their findings, suggestions of favorable battle tactics, recommendations on how to proceed, and of course you will have our assistance in rebuilding." "Is much appreciated, Delegate River, but I'm afraid the foreign people need more," Zaire replied. One of the tufts of hair above the human's eyes raised slightly, an expression Zyla had learned meant the human was either confused, intrigued, or entertained. Or all three. "If you have a proposal, I can bring it forward to the Baron here. If it is within our power, we could grant it immediately." River set the tablet down and turned fully toward Zaire, his countenance more serious than polite now. "If you are requesting something more serious, something substantial, it will need to be approved by the Emperor and his advisors. I can only promise so much." Zaire was familiar with the human empire's negotiating. Generally, they would hear a proposal, and if they found it favorable, they would respond within 2 human days. If they found it politely unfavorable, they would simply not respond, answering inquiries with the advisors are still discussing it, or a decision has not yet been made on the matter. Wholly unfavorable proposals, such as the joint research agreement Zyla had proposed 3 human years ago, were immediately shut down. Her proposal now was one she expected wholesale rejection on, but she had been armed by the foreign Primarch with a new bargaining tool and an imperative to make the humans agree. The foreign could not take no for an answer on this. "We believe the humans would be potent allies in this fight. Our military intelligence once generated a report on human forces that implied what we could see of human military and weaponry was a fleeting show, and that more effort had been spent to conceal human military might than any galactic nation had ever spent using military might." The human said nothing. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk, his fingers into a steeple, and his mouth behind his hands. His head tilted down, and he now looked up with his eyes toward Zaire. The look was serious, dangerous, predatory even, but he did not say anything. "The Foreign formally request human aid in defeating the Legion forces and reuniting foreign space. We cannot fulfill that request at this time," he said flatly. "We know humans can fight," Zyla demanded, her skin beginning to glow from bioluminescence, betraying the passion of her position from the calmness of her speech. "Are you not capable of defeating the Legion? Are you afraid of them? That is not the issue," Representative Zaire the human began. "Tell me honestly now, could human warships defeat the Legion in combat?" The human glanced down at Zyla's tablet before bringing his gaze back to hers. "Off the record," he said. Zyla shut off her tablet and stowed it in her pocket as the human walked quietly around the desk and poked his head out the door. He glanced side to side for a moment and then, seemingly satisfied, closed and locked the door. He returned to his desk, opened the drawer, and withdrew a tablet of his own, which he powered off and set face down on the desk. Finally, he regarded her intently. "Your military intelligence is correct. Humans have concealed their military prowess from other galactic nations. Could you beat the Legion?" "Yes. Of all the spacefaring races we've come across, the Legion are perhaps the second or third most formidable, not counting ourselves, of course. We wouldn't handily defeat them, per se, but we could all but guarantee military success against the forces you are engaging. Second or third, Xyla stammered. Well, naturally, the Federation is first. Then there's the Gaussians with their rather crafty electronic warfare. Their combat effectiveness is remarkable, actually. The rest of the galactic community simply hasn't realized the potential Gaussians have for warfare due to their friendly nature. And they have more ships than we do, people. Even still, they don't have a whole lot of bona fide military resources. Once they're done with their one trick of electronic warfare, they are beatable with simple weaponry and tactics. Then the Legion, with their large number and very fast resupply times, plus the fact that one Legionnaire could eventually reproduce into a whole horde of fighters by itself, means that any conflicts with them not resolved very quickly and incredibly judiciously could very quickly become a quagmire. The Empire certainly cannot afford a second war that could turn into a stalemate without our full attention. This is why I must deny your request. As for the second or third place race, it's hard to say yet. The way, people, I don't believe your kind has encountered them yet, actually, so I ask you to keep this between us, are rather warlike. We don't know the full strength of their forces yet, and they are new to the galactic scene, having only just achieved FTL a few cycles ago, but they remind us of us, and that means they're not to be trifled with lightly. Xyla was shocked into silence for a moment. The human had acknowledged the threat of the Legion, but had framed it as one of time and effort, not insurmountable forces or indestructible vessels. They weren't even as much of a threat as some new race that hadn't even made it to the galactic community yet. I see you are processing still. So let me reiterate our previous offer. We can have the Empire's top military analysts review your positions and provide you with advice on how to proceed and findings from our own initial skirmish with the Legion. That information should greatly improve foreign combat effectiveness. And it really is a very generous offer. What of human warships simply on loan? No. Hired human mercenaries? I'm afraid not. Human weapons training? Even just a blueprint? Out of the question, the human said flatly. What I've offered is already a stretch. Xyla cut him off. The Primarch calls in his favor. What? Xyla stood now, reaching her full height and allowing her bioluminescence to fill the room with different shades of blue and purple. She put on her most commanding voice. The Primarch calls in his favor. You don't know what you're asking. The human said in a warning tone. This is Pandora's box, and you don't just want the key, you want a sledgehammer to break it open. I have read your human mythology, River, and I know of Pandora's box. Do you know what was inside? Monsters of every kind imaginable, Hope, Xyla said resolutely. Delegate River, these reports do not tell the full story. Our forces are fractured beyond repair. Our colonies are starving. Our ships and stations destroyed and left derelict. Even our homeworld is on the brink, fighting an unending battle just to supply forces and equipment enough to slow the Legion advance, not stop it, not turn it, slow it. Without human military intervention, the foreign race is finished. We are a proud people, Mr. River, but not too proud to beg. Please help us. River was silent for a moment, staring into the room beyond Xyre. His calculating eyes had glazed over as if seeing something horrible from his past before him now. The human emperor. He eventually said, seemingly to himself, was once rescued from drowning during a visit to that aquatic colony of yours by the foreign prince. He vowed to repay the debt when your people asked. You, of course, know this, since you're calling in that favor. He looked at her now. But you don't really know the magnitude of what you're asking. Humans going to war with anyone is going to change everything on a galactic scale. Xyla scoffed, but the human's serious expression quieted her quickly. Your people like to race, yes? River asked. Yes, Xyla responded. It is our, as you humans practice it. Sport your fastest racer. How quick are they? Arbin is our fastest racer. He could circumnavigate our home planet in less than 3 of its days. How long would it take you to do? River asked. Well, I'm no racer. Xyla blushed shyly. Maybe 20, 15 if I'm given time to get in shape. River sighed and then looked at her deeply. You are to your race what Rezan is to mine, at least in terms of military. I said that the Legion was perhaps the second or third strongest military power in our galaxy. Well, the difference between first place, the Federation, and second place is like the difference between Rezan and you. It's astronomical. It's leaps and bounds. It's degrees of magnitude different. The only things that prevent us from wiping out the Legion are that we'd have to be decisive and thorough, and that we're too busy with the Federation to be thorough. You're asking an adult to get into a fight with a child. Only once everyone else sees the adult fight, they'll realize they're all children. It's going to start an arms race with every other species in the galaxy. We have no other choice, Zyla said. We need your military to save us from annihilation. River sighed for a moment and rubbed his hand across his brow. He muttered under his breath for a moment, something about diplomatic relations in light of military prowess. Eventually, he stood. I must attend to something first. Will you stay here a moment while I make some negotiations? Zyla nodded, and River left the room quietly. He was back in only a few minutes and nodded to her. You'll have our support, but just how much support we can offer depends on this next bit. He tapped on his tablet. A few decisive keystrokes, and a telemonitor descended from the ceiling behind her. It whirred quietly for a moment before an image of another human appeared on it. In contrast to River's white stiff attire with blue trim, this human wore black with a white undershirt and no accenting colors. His feet were kicked up on his desk as he leaned back in his chair and grinned at the screen. River, he called jovially, finally calling to surrender. Eh? Well, you can suck my. River cut him off quickly and loudly. I'm joined by a representative of the Foran people, Ms. Zyla. Zyla nodded a polite greeting, and the human on the monitor stammered for a moment before adopting a polite formal posture. Apologies, Ms. Zyla. How can the Federation of Human Territories be of assistance? The Foran have called in their favor. River answered for her. I'm calling to negotiate a ceasefire. While we answer it, the Federation is friendly to the Foran people, but we are under no such obligations. River, I respect you for responding to a favor, but your ceasefire is denied. River put out his palms in a pleading gesture. Hear me out first. The favor is military aid. The reason he swiped at his tablet, and the human on the monitor looked down at his own as he received the message, is of mutual interest to us. The human on the screen was quiet for a moment as he read. His face changed from one of surprise and curiosity over the call to one of bitterness and anger. Finally, he looked up at Zyla through the monitor. The Legion harvested one of our colonies when we first encountered them. An undefended civilian colony was all but devoured, and when we finally made diplomatic contact with them, they said it wasn't their fault. They just eat dead stuff. It was the colony's fault for being dead so easily. I thought we destroyed those spore bastards, but I guess we just accidentally sent them your way. River, you have your ceasefire, and Zyre, you just got more ships. Tell your Primarch to point them out and get out of the way. The humans are coming. The transmission went dark, and River turned toward Zyla. Well, he clapped his hands and rubbed them enthusiastically. With Imperial and Federation forces, we should have that taken care of in a couple of days. It's like you got 2 Razans for the price of 1. And what you said about Pandora's box, about the arms race. Oh, I meant it. You're going to see monsters, and all the galactic stage will feel like children before the human militaries. But you'll get your hope too. And besides, he winked, a favor is owed. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. For every comment that says we will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.